Hello. It's been a bit. I'm here to talk Booker. I mean, it hasn't really been a bit. Like, there's been videos, but it's been a bit since I've sat down knowing that this is going to come out anytime soon. It's so weird how deep into Booker books I've been, reading wise, and even talking about them a little bit, through Instagram or recording clips that just haven't seen the light of day yet. But my channel hasn't actually had any videos on them in quite some time, because the last 4 videos that I put up on my channel were pre-filmed before the long list was announced, since I've been gone for about a month. And I'm not even home. I am in the US, but I'm in Denver. Initially, I planned on filming this part earlier, but things have been crazy. Anyways, none of that matters. What does matter is that I am back and I'm ready to talk Booker. Hi, my name is Sarah Freshley and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. Yes, now you will get all the Booker content. Starting with this video where I'm going to talk about the 2 Booker books I read while I was in Indonesia. So I have some clips from my initial thoughts, my initial reactions to those books while I was in Indonesia. And then I also have just some clips from Indonesia in general, from the trip, little montages, if you will. But if you're not as interested in that, then timestamps are in the description. I, as in me now, will be coming back after those initial thoughts clips that I filmed, just to kind of fully wrap up my opinions, my thoughts of the book. So, see you then. I mean, it's not the cutest filming location, but it's what we've got. Also, I'm very shiny from bug spray. I am here in Indonesia and I've just finished reading Trust. And I totally get it. I totally get why people are talking so much about this book. It's really good. I don't want to say I had my doubts. I don't know, there's always something really worrying whenever you hear everybody talking about how much they loved a book. And you're like, what if I'm not? What if I don't? You want to, but you're worried that you don't or won't. But I did, which is great. So Trust is about the financial boom and then the collapse in the 1920s, the Great Depression. So it's not about this financial period as a whole, but more about how it pertains to this specific family and their influence in it. And the unique thing about this story is that while it always centers on that, it's from very different perspectives. And you honestly, everybody feels like an unreliable narrator, but you're trying to piece together what the truth in the story is, what specific things you can trust the most. And it's quite an experience of a story to read, because in the first section, you're hearing the story and you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. It's like reading a regular book. And then the second section, you get this added layer to that. And then the third section, and then the fourth. And so you continually get these different layers to this story. I feel like I'm Shrek right now. But instead of peeling back, you're putting on the layers and just learning more and more and seeing this more holistically. And it's so interesting to be reading another part and to see where a previous part may have led you astray and may have tried to convince you of one thing, and then all of a sudden you're seeing the way that they maybe tried to convince you and why that was not correct. There's a lot of ideals that are in this, because we're talking about very wealthy people, I would say, in this. And a large prevalent thought in the story, this idea that successes are our own, but any failures that happens are the result of something else, something exterior. So for example, with the stock market, when you do well, when you invest your money and you get a return from that, that was because you invested your money wisely. But when you lose money because of that, it's because, this, X, Y, and Z happened, and that was out of my control, even though technically the stocks are always out of your control. Going along those same lines, there was this like thought of like, if you're wealthy, then you deserved that wealth. Even if it's generational, it means that your family did something right to get you here. However, if something happens to that wealth, then you should still be regarded like higher in society because your family at one time had that wealth. And so like you still belong in that area, which is a very confusing, but I feel like I've definitely seen before. Like it's a confusing thought, but I've for sure seen this exist. But then we do get to hear the ideas from the other side, and one character is talking about how money is fiction and that the amount that you have proves absolutely nothing about you. And so you do get like that little bit of pulling the other way and just seeing the influence that wealth has on a person, whether that be the person that has the wealth or somebody else that's near that person with wealth, that spends time with that person, and what that does to the perception of that person that doesn't have the wealth but is just kind of next to it. This book was filled with wonderful quotes. Oh, one of the quotes that I loved was, God is the most uninteresting answer to the most interesting questions. Like the question of like, how did the universe came to be, and just being like, I don't know, some guy made it. Oh, there's this one section where one of the characters, I won't say who, is saying is that everything they've made on their own, completely by myself. And that in part is what I proved to everyone during the crash. Regardless of the circumstances, there's always room for individual action. And then the person he's talking to points out, well, you weren't completely by yourself. Your ancestors and your wife was at your side, and basically pointing out that like you didn't do this all on your own. And I think that there is this idea, especially like the self-made millionaire or the self-made man, whatever that like thought is, ideal is never really the case, because everybody always needs other people in order to get to where they're going, whether that just be, you know, finding out about a specific opportunity just through word of mouth. Like, yeah, you might still have gone to get that opportunity, but other people in other places may not ever have heard about it to begin with. I thought that that was a wonderful idea. Honestly, there were so many wonderful quotes. Oh, most of us prefer to believe we are active subjects of our victories, but only the passive objects of our defeats. I think that goes back in line with the thinking that like every time you get a success, it was all you. Every time that there's a defeat, it was something else. Oh, this is really wonderful. I first learned something I had the chance to corroborate many times throughout my life. The closer one is to a source of power, the quieter it gets. Authority and money surround themselves with silence, and one can measure the reach of someone's influence by the thickness of the hush enveloping them. So good. But yeah, I think that that is going to do it for at least the update that I have right now. I think I'm going to film a little bit more once I get back home to kind of round out this video, talk about whether or not I recommend it, although I feel like the answer is pretty obvious. But I just wanted to give an update while I'm here, while it's actively in my brain, while I've just finished it, before I head on to the next book for Booker 2022. So I know I said I'd do this wrap up at home and then be able to talk about whether or not I recommend the book, which would of course involve the Booker vlog, but clearly I'm not home, so we'll improvise that. But I've had some time to sit with Trust since finishing reading it, and it's only grown on me more. I've also been like watching and reading reviews that other people have done, although I actually feel like I did a good job of summing up what my thoughts were on the book during the clip that you just watched. Like, I was kind of impressed with myself. What I wasn't impressed by was the fact that I had toilet paper on the bed the entire time during that clip. I cut it out in like the official edit, but you can see here that there was a roll of toilet paper. Like, I cleared off the whole bed and then just forgot about that, like didn't see, I don't know. Anyways, I loved Trust, I still do. The way it like layered in those perspectives, thoughts on wealth and the people that have it and the people that are close to the people that have it. It's just great. And like that thought of like, if you have something, then you deserved it. Like, there's been a bunch of studies that have been done about people that even if they don't do anything to like gain wealth to begin with, they still have this feeling that they deserve that wealth. For example, I'll link to a study I find really fascinating that was done during a game of Monopoly, where half the people were given double the starting amount as the other half of the people, and they kind of expected to see the wealthier group feel kind of weird about having started in a position that was higher than the rest, and that they would maybe be like helping them, but they didn't see that at all. In fact, they saw like them bragging about their wealth, like they did something to earn it, even though they obviously did it. Like, everybody there knows that they didn't. I think there were some other rules that were like skewed in their favor even, but I'll link to that if you're curious about it. I find it really interesting, but I thought that this book kind of touched on what that touches on as well. So just overall, like, I could see myself rereading this book for sure. So would the Booker frog and I recommend it? I think I'm just gonna insert a nice little clip of the frog here from a previous review. So yes, we do recommend it. And if you're new here, the Booker frog is just a frog that I have that if it ribbits once for a book, that means that I would generally recommend it to basically anybody where I feel strongly enough about it being such a good book that I would recommend it to just the casual viewer to read that book. If it doesn't ribbit, that means that I wouldn't recommend it in that way, although sometimes I will say that I'd recommend it to a certain group of people or something like that. And then there is the ever elusive double ribbit, which is given to books that I absolutely love and I just like want people really badly to read them. Not many books are in it. Usually we get like one book every Booker season. So like one book from International, one book from regular Booker. So we'll see. We'll see if this year we get it. This one isn't quite a double ribbit for me, but it is still one that I would definitely recommend to read.
I don't think it'll help to be just boxed in your room. It's not like you to lose faith in all the work you're doing out here. You got nothing to fear. I'm just saying it don't hurt to believe in me. It's no life to live in denial. You don't need saving, but I'll do what I can to see you in all your natural style. Let's go outside today. Go outside today. Let's go outside today.
So I finished Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These a couple days ago and haven't had a chance to update, and today I've been in bed all day because I'm pretty sick. It's not too bad and I think I'm getting better. I don't know. I did just take a shower to try to feel like a little bit more human, but I can't be bothered to like wait for my hair to dry or to frame this up any better, so here we are. But like I did with Trust, I wanted to film like a quick update on how I felt about Small Things Like These before I forget it, because this one, I don't know. There were parts of it that I really liked, and initially going into it I really liked it. It's a super small book. The plot, if you don't know, it's about this Irish family that are not super well off. The father comes from kind of an odd situation where he was like taken in by somebody who was not his parents, that assisted in raising him, and he doesn't know who his dad is, but he ends up creating this family with I think 5 daughters and his wife, and like they do all right for themselves, but he kind of spends every day like really working hard at his job and not being able to spend any time with his family. But he's still better off than some other people that are in worse situations, and this is all like leading up in the days to Christmas, so there's like this question of morality, I guess, that's brought up in it. But I think that it just didn't do quite enough for me. The ending I really liked. I thought that was like, it was a really great way to wrap up this story, but it did just feel like a story to me, and I think that it just could have done more. Like I think we could have just seen more from it, or I don't know. I wanted more. I guess more length, but also just more emotion, more from the different characters. But the writing was really nice. I did really enjoy the writing, and there were some great quotes, which I think I have, but not actively. So I'll try to make sure that I save those, and then when I do the actual wrap up for this, I'll be able to share. But yeah, that's it. Not a lot of thoughts for a very short book. I'm going to continue laying here and hoping that I get better. And I did feel better. I was able to go out to dinner that night, and the next day I think we had a pretty chill day in general. And then I think the following day we headed out for a big hike that we had to do, which is footage that will start the next video that I'll have come up on my channel, which will be a little bit of the end of Indonesia and then into Thailand and the books that I read then. So just in case you want to watch those. But anyways, this clip is to talk about Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. So again, I've had time to sit on my thoughts from that book, and I don't know, I think I feel the same that I did before, where I just wanted more from it. However, I do have 2 things to add to the thoughts that I had previously, one of which is of course the quote that I did not have ready to share at the time. I do have it now, which I'm going to read from my laptop because I don't have my Kindle right here, but I did write it down. Before long, he caught a hold of himself and concluded that nothing ever did happen again. To each was given days and chances which wouldn't come back around. And wasn't it sweet to be where you were and let it remind you of the past for once, despite the upset, instead of always looking on into the mechanics of the days ahead and the trouble ahead, which might never come. So I still very much love that quote. I think it's great. I think that this book does a good job of staying on like that topic, or touching on that topic of like, live in the moment, or to not like worry about things to come, but it does it in a way that's maybe more realistic or more acknowledges how hard that is to do. Like I think that a lot of times that messaging can feel very like surface level, but this book does a good job of providing like the deeper look at that message. And then the second thing that I kind of wanted to talk about that really has stuck with me from the book is how it touches on like decision making, and when there is something that you need to decide on and it kind of seems like you know that there is one right decision, whether that's like right for you, right for your moral compass, like you know that that would be the right decision. However, you know that if you make that decision, there are going to be consequences of that that are a little scary and you're worried about needing to deal with. But this book kind of talks about how like once you make that decision, then it actually makes it easier to deal with those outcomes because you've already done the hard part of making the decision. Once you've done it, then it's easier to just say, okay, I'm going to deal with the outcomes from this. Like that's what I have to do. But you can feel good in knowing that you already did the right thing, if that makes sense. It's weird as I'm talking about this book, I feel like I'm liking it more and more, but that was definitely like my favorite thing, my favorite takeaway from the book. However, would the book or frog and I recommend it? I'm gonna say no on this one. I don't think broadly I would recommend this to everybody. I'm tempted to a little bit just because of how short the book is, like how easy and quick of a read it is, for it still having like a good takeaway, I would say, but I just don't think it's a super necessary read. So that's how I feel about this one. Anyways, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you for sticking around, as there's been kind of a delay in the Booker videos, and also they are clearly going to look a little bit different, at least at the beginning here, than my normal videos. I still intend on doing the sit-down full review videos for each of the shortlisted books and diving into like the themes from those books. Speaking of the shortlist, that is going to be announced next week. Kieran from Katie Books and I did a shortlist prediction that actually happened right after we finished the live stream for the Longlist announcement. So we kind of did like a first impressions style predictions video, and we're going to be doing a part 2 where we reflect on those predictions and likely change them greatly. So be sure to be subscribed to both of us, really, but it's going to be on his channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider subscribing. I usually upload videos every Wednesday, and I will get back on that schedule soon, but for now I'm just going to say that I'm uploading videos every week. They are not necessarily on Wednesday right now, but still, you know, stick around. Bye.